So this is just the idea that you need to identify certain keywords before you even begin your search. Just brainstorm keywords that are related to your topic. And even here, we can apply a little bit of a search strategy by considering these 5 factors. First thing is synonyms, then it's variations, words versus phrases, abbreviations, and then alternate spelling options. And we're going to discuss all of these in detail in the following slides. But again, this is before we've even started to dig into any of the literature yet. We're just brainstorming this on our own. And so the first one was synonyms. So let's flesh out the list using synonyms. You could be writing a piece for your own portfolio, and so you've got a lot of creative liberty about how you want to take this topic. Or even if you're working on a piece for a client, sometimes they may give you some liberty to do that, or they may rely on your expertise to direct the piece. And so you've got the freedom here to figure out where you want to focus, what keywords you want to bring up. But that can also get a little bit complicated when you think about it too broadly, right? There's so much that you could go for, and you don't want to miss relevant studies. You want to be mindful of multiple ways that the same thing can be described. And so we kind of want a little bit of a Goldilocks zone here, where you want to cast your net wide enough that it captures those things, those multiple ways to describe something, but not too wide so that it's just like everything and it's not targeted. And so one way to start fleshing out your list is, again, think about your plan, think about your topic, think about your target audience, and then go from there. So if your topic is Alzheimer's, you might want to think about synonyms for Alzheimer's, such as just dementia or neurodegeneration, because there may be papers that talk about dementia and neurodegeneration that would be relevant to you. And so we don't want to miss those. The next would be word variations. And this could be as simple as just considering plurals for a word, or it could be a little bit more complicated, where you might want to consider, well, if we're looking at bacteria, maybe we want to look at bacterium or vice versa. We want to think about alternate word endings. So like the image here, we've got genes, but also genome, also genetics, genomics, genealogy, all of which, or some of which, or most of which could be relevant to your topic. Or something like convict, conviction, convicted. There's different ways that we can talk about that overarching idea. And so we want to remember word variations. And you use that to continue to flesh out your list of keywords until you can't come up with any more variations. Oftentimes it's just 2 or 3 different ways, but we want to make sure we're capturing that. The next is relevant phrases. So you don't just have to limit yourself to words. Sometimes you need to look at relevant phrases too. A lot of long, complicated words in the medical field includes those words as well. So you might want to think about acronyms or abbreviations that are, again, relevant to your topic of interest, relevant to your target audience. Some of the most common types of things you can think about or consider are disease names. If we go back to that Alzheimer's disease example, you can write out Alzheimer's disease like this as a phrase, but you also might need the abbreviation for it. Or medical terms like general practitioner, you could also look up GP, or even like really common culturally ubiquitous terms like intensive care unit can also be ICU. When in doubt, when you just want to see what comes up, you can always add both the full word and the phrase and the abbreviations. Just again, right now we're just brainstorming, so you can add all of this to your keywords list. And then when we see how many papers will come up from this list that we're making, you can start off by adding more terms, and then we can always adjust from there. And lastly, let's not forget alternate spellings. This is something quite important because when you're looking at journal publications, of course, they're based in many different countries, and you might want to consider how editors will standardize or formalize submissions. So one of the most common things is European spellings versus American or Canadian spellings. And some of the most common things to look out for there are things like extra vowels. So, European color versus color, where there's the extra U, S or Z in words, depending on where you are, analyze versus analyze, the way that the R and the E are placed in things in words like center, and then also double L's, enrolled versus enrolled. So consider all of these variants within your chosen topic, and then you expand on your list of keywords before you go searching for papers. So one thing to note is when let's say you've done all that and you start looking for your papers, you start conducting your literature search, you'll realize that you might see new search terms and keywords in the papers that you're seeing come up that you may not have thought about previously. Or maybe you're digging into it and you're starting to refine the papers that you're looking for a little bit more, and you're noticing more specific or more niche keywords. That's fine. Keep an eye out for those and add them to your list. And it's going to save you a lot of time later on, because those are the ones that are a bit more targeted now as you start to conduct this process. So keep an eye out for those in the keyword section as you're looking at those papers and skimming through those papers. It's a little bit of an iterative process here. So you've got your list of keywords. We've applied those little strategies for how to come up with our list of keywords. Now we can begin to do the actual researching. So use that list of keywords to filter your literature search. They sort of form that initial foundation for your data search. There's different places you can go to look for papers, to look for academic resources. But just for simplicity's sake, we're going to talk about PubMed in today's slide deck. So if you are using PubMed, what you would do is you would go to the advanced search feature on PubMed. You would filter by title and abstract to help narrow down your search. Because again, we don't want to cast the net too wide. So we want those keywords to come up in the title and the abstract. Then you type in your keywords using, and or using the Boolean operators. And then if you're using phrases, don't forget to put that in quotation marks, something like if you're looking at non-small cell lung cancer, then you want to put that entire phrase in there. Otherwise, it's just not helpful because you don't want to pull in just the word cancer, for example, right? That's going to be too big of a net. And so this is kind of what that looks like on PubMed. If you're on that website, you can see the little advanced search button here, and that pulls out the advanced search builder that we see over here. So we filtered for title and abstract, and here is where you're adding your keywords. So in this case, we've added dementia, we've added Alzheimer's disease, we've added neurodegeneration. And here is where your Boolean operator button exists. So you can either have, so in this case, we're talking about the same thing, right? We're talking about dementia, we're talking about Alzheimer's, we're talking about neurodegeneration. So I would use or, but if I want to pull up papers that are talking about Alzheimer's disease and Down syndrome, for example, I want something that talks about both of those things, I would change that to, I would maybe say dementia or Alzheimer's disease or neurodegeneration and Down syndrome or trisomy. And so the words that are interchangeable or, sort of mean the same type of thing, you would use or you want to have both factors pulled into your search, you use and. So that's all we mean by that. So now you've put in your keywords, and what happens? How many papers do you pull in? What do you do if your initial search gives you a few results, not as many as you want, less than 50? One thing you could do is just try to remove certain keywords, or you can add certain keywords. You can play around with those ors and those ands and see what you come up with there. If you're getting way too many results, maybe you could do something like, again, you could play around with those keywords, but you can also think about adding more filters. Maybe you want to get things that are published more recently. I usually go within 5 years. And then if you're getting things that are just not relevant at first glance when you're going through those papers, again, you could fiddle around a little bit with those keywords, with those filters and other things. But the other thing to keep an eye out for is maybe you need to adjust your topic. It's possible that what you're looking for, there isn't that much information available, or there isn't that much research done on this specific thing right now. So maybe you want to adjust your topic to better match what the current research that is available shows you, what you are coming across, if it interests you or if it interests your client. Or like I said, you could revisit your search terms, you could reject that a little bit, see if you can adjust that to make sure you haven't missed anything. But just keep an open mind, keep an eye out to see what you are seeing, what available research is there.